Since 2007, so-called anti-foreign law bills have been popping up in state legislatures across the country. The bills seek to ban sharia law, an Islamic moral and judicial code. 8 states have passed the law. Yet no lawmaker has ever introduced a bill proposing a political system based on sharia law. The purpose behind these bills is clear: to smear Islam and Muslims in America for political gain.
They would say we're trying to protect American values, which in their case are decidedly Christian values.
I mean, this is a country that truly believes in freedom of religion, and this was an impact on that.
Almost all of the legislation is based on a model bill written by David Shami, an attorney working with many of the activists in the Islamofobia network. His draft legislation is fueled by the false belief that Muslims are trying to supplant America's constitutional republic through Islam.
But it just goes to show that when you're very well funded, you can get these things into the media bloodstream and get people talking about them.
In 2011, the Islamophobia network looked to Michigan as its next target. But when State Representative David Ajama introduced anti-Sharia legislation, something unexpected happened. A diverse coalition of colleagues came together to fight it.
During the initial introduction of the bill, Ajama was able to get a large amount of co-sponsors for the bill, predominantly from the Republican Party.
First of all, I want you to know that it bothers me that I even have to stand here and talk about this issue. When you enter a court of law, I do not want your rights, as we understand them according to the Constitution, either state or federal, to be abridged by any foreign law. Is that too much to ask? No. I don't think it is.
So of course, on the surface, it sounds good, even though the United States Constitution and the Supremacy Clause, there is no foreign law that can trump American law to begin with, and that was something that was enshrined in our Constitution by the authors of that document to begin with, and the Supreme Court has, of course, always traditionally upheld that, so there was no threat.
I think more and more people understood that this Foreign Law Act impacted all faiths, and that it was a slippery slope.
While the law was aimed at Islam, there was a real possibility that it could affect other religions too. That brought outspoken opposition from leaders of other faiths, calling it an attack on religious liberty.
I coordinate with Rashida a press conference in which we called for some of our allies, including the NAACP and the ACLU, where we called out Dave Ajama and his true agenda behind the anti-Sharia bill.
I'm lucky in that I was there. There was a Muslim legislator there while it's happening, and I was very passionate about it. It's hard when somebody that's not of that faith, from that community, that's not there in the caucus room, understanding the legislative process, knows the players involved, has access to them. It's very, very difficult.
The actual introduction of itself and the talking points that went along with it were clearly designed to marginalize Muslims in the state of Michigan from being accepted fully into the socio-political process.
Why would anybody think that Sharia law is going to take over the country? We have a Constitution, and our Constitution protects us from foreign laws being ruled on as legal laws in this country. It has to be a United States law for it to be applicable in the courts.
Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, question for the House is advanced the bill to...
One of my first questions was, show me the proof. Why do we need this? Where does it help? And then the members that were supportive of the bill could not produce anything that, at least in my personal opinion, would justify a vote on the bill.
So Ajama didn't take no for an answer and decided to ignore Representative John Walsh's request for more factual evidence to show that there is a great need for his Foreign Law Act. But he was aggressive about it. He wouldn't stop. Every time I turned around, he got up to the mic. I was like, oh my God, again?
People can take up this issue, and even if they're not able to forward, say, anti-Sharia legislation, as Ajama failed to do in Michigan, it's a way of kind of setting yourself up and making yourself attractive to the sorts of funders who can help support a political campaign.
It's hate. Pure and simple, it's hatred. And it's anti-Semitism at its worst. We've seen a rise in anti-Semitism, whether it's against Muslims or Jews. And I think that we are a multicultural nation. We have been built on pluralism. We are a stronger nation because of our differences and because of our acceptance of those differences. And so I think we just keep celebrating our ethnic diversity and our religious diversity, and hopefully we grow into a stronger nation because of it.
Working in the legislature post 9/11, that every time 9/11 happens, sitting in that ceremony, I kept thinking to myself, you know, everything that happened, I know that I've changed the mindset of so many of my colleagues. I mean, I have 109 colleagues that probably would have never met a Muslim or worked with one, but for the fact that I got elected to the legislature. I mean, nobody could have ever imagined my mother, who's pregnant with me on an airplane from Palestine, comes here, and like 30-something years later, her daughter becomes the first Muslim woman ever elected. And she didn't speak English when she started school. I mean, that dream and that opportunity, I want that to be accessible to all the families in the city of Detroit. And I want to continue fighting for that and preserving that. And that includes fighting back any anti-American legislation like the Foreign Law Act or anything like that that happens in the legislature.